surface area of composite figures. We're going to start on this number 5 right here. What shapes do you guys see? How many? 2. So your first thing that you should do is you should always break it up into how you are going to split it up into your 2 shapes. For instance, I would do the big one on bottom and then the teeny one on top. Does everyone see that? Then once you've broken it up, then start finding the area of individual sides. Okay? So when we start, you just pick a side. Any side you want and start there. So I'm going to start with the one I see first, and that's the one that's in front. Does everyone see this one here? Okay, it doesn't include this tiny one up top. It's just this one here. In order to find the area of that rectangle, what would I do? Multiply 4 times 6. 6 times 4. So I'm going to write 6 times 4. And what is 6 times 4? So we know the area of the front rectangle is 24. Does that make sense, you guys? Now, question for you. If this is in the front, do I have the same rectangle in the back?
Yes.
So can I still multiply that by 2? Can I still do that, guys?
Yes.
Yes, because there is 2 of them. So then I have 24 times 2, which is what? 48. So I know that the front rectangle and the back rectangle are 48. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm going to do the next one that I see. I see this side one right here. Not going past my line that I drew, just this side one. Going up to the line that I drew. What 2 numbers would I multiply together to get the area of that rectangle? It's 12, and then it's 6. Why is it not 7? Good. 7 goes up to that very top of that little itty bitty one that we said we're going to wait on, right, guys? So it's just 6 and 12. Is that understood? Okay. And what's 6 times 12? Now, question, is this rectangle the same rectangle that is on the other side? So can I still multiply this by 2? Okay, so 72 times 2. What's that? 144. So I know that the front and back are 48 and the side and side are 144. Does that make sense, guys? Okay? Yes, Morgan?
Will it always be a case that they're always going to be the same?
No. Good question. So now let's look at the bottom. Does everyone see this bottom rectangle? What would I multiply together to get that bottom rectangle? And what is 4 times 12? Now, is the bottom the same as the top?
No.
No. Because the top has that tiny little rectangle that comes out of it, doesn't it? So I cannot multiply by 2 because the top and the bottom are not the same. Does that make sense, you guys? Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Morgan? Okay, good question. So now I want to go to the top. Because I have a top, right? It's just not the whole length of it, is it? It goes back here. And then it goes this way. Do you guys see that? So what 2 numbers would I multiply together to get that rectangle off to the side of the little bitty one? 12 times 3. And what's 12 times 3?
36.
Because the length of the whole thing is 4, so that little area is 3. Dax, question, bud?
On the top, you could also just do 12 times 4 and then not have to solve the top on the number.
Only reason I don't want you to do that is I've seen so many students make mistakes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I see so many mistakes, so I'd rather you go side by side by side because of the chance of error later on. Does that make sense, guys? It's not that you can't do it, and you totally can. There's just so much room for error, so if you go just side by side, there's less room for error. Does that make sense? Can you do that? Yes, you can. Okay? All right, good questions, guys. All right, so now I just have this tiny, itty, little bitty one right up top. Do you guys see that? Okay, so what's the length of this line right here that goes across? We had 3 here, so what's this?
1.
Okay, so that's a 1. What's the line going up? And then what's this line going across? So you have to be able to find those lines, just like we did with composite shapes, right, guys? Okay. So I've got this front one right here. What would I multiply together for this front one? 1 times 1. And what's 1 times 1?
1.
But how many are there? There's 1 in front. Is there 1 in back? So what would I do? Times 2. And what's 1 times 2?
2.
Don't put a 1 there. I have so many people that put a 1 there. Okay, so now I have this side right here. What would I multiply together to get this side right here? 12 times 1. And what's 12 times 1?
12.
Okay, now this is 12. What's the top going to be? And what's this other side back here going to be? So how many sides equal 12? So what should I multiply by? 12 times 3. Why would I not multiply by 4? Because technically there's 4 sides that are the same, right? Oh.
Part of the top is the first shape.
One of them is this part that's right underneath it, right, guys? Is that part underneath it on the outside of my shape? So we can't add that in. And what's 12 times 3? What do I do with all of those numbers? Grab your calculator, add them all together. Do the math twice, guys. It's so easy to type in a number wrong. So do the math twice, check it twice. Just like Santa Claus, check it twice, right? When you are done doing it in your calculator twice, check with the person sitting next to you, see if you guys got the same answer. Have we checked for the person sitting next to us? What did we get for an answer? What did we get when we added them all together? And because it's area, it is still centimeters squared. So 314 centimeters squared is your answer. So yes, as I told Dax earlier, there is more than one way to get these numbers. Is that understood, guys? This is not the only way. There are other ways that you can multiply together to get your numbers. My only request is that you do side by side by side. Because if you were to do like whole things, it's possible you'd have to subtract something away, and that's when it can get confusing. Does that make sense? Okay. Questions? Okay, I want us to go to the lime green paper now. That still talks about surface area. And we are going to go down to number 3 on it. Told you we were going to jump around a little. So number 3 on the lime green piece of paper. And let's start finding the surface area of this. This gives me what 2 shapes? Good, there are 2 rectangular prisms put together. Do you guys all see that? Okay. So I need to find the area of this front rectangle. How do I find the area of this front rectangle? And what is 12 times 9? 108. Now, question. That's the front rectangle. Is the back of that rectangle exactly the same? Is it the same, guys?
Yes.
No. Because this rectangle butts up to the back. Think about if you were wrapping a Christmas gift, right, guys? And you're putting wrapping paper. You go over the top front, over the top, and then you go down the back. You don't go down that whole back, do you?
No.
That's how you know you don't have an entire back, because you can't put wrapping paper down the whole back. You got to go then out again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then if we were to do the area of the back, this rectangle right here, because there is still some back, it's just not a full. How do we find the area of that back rectangle right there? What two things would we multiply together?
6
Why 6 times 9?
6 times 9 is the height of that.
Okay, I've got 6 right here. Does everyone see that? So if the height of this rectangle is 6, I don't know the height of this rectangle, but the height of the whole thing is 12. What's 12 minus 6? So that's how we know that that is a 6. So we end up doing 9 times 6, which is 54. So that is the front and that is the back. Please don't always assume, though, that it's going to be half of it. Is that understood? Don't assume anything. All right, what about this rectangle right here? This one on the side. How would I find the area of this rectangle here on the side? 10 times 12. What's 10 times 12? Now, is this rectangle here on the side the same as the one in the back of it? So what can I do? And what's 120 times 2? All right, what two sides am I missing on this first rectangle? Top and bottom. Are top and bottom the same? What do I multiply together to get my top and my bottom? 10 times 9, 9 times 10. This bottom right here, 9 times 10. And what is 9 times 10? And you guys already told me there are two of them exactly the same, because the top and the bottom are the same. What's 90 times 2? Alright, so that's the area of the first rectangle. Now you have to find the surface area of the second rectangle. So how do I find the area of this side right here? 8 times 6. What's 8 times 6, everyone? Question. Is the front the same as the back? So what can I do? 48 times 2 is what? Okay, so that's the side and the side. What about the top? How do I find the area of the top? Sorry, what am I multiplying together? 8 times 9. And what's 8 times 9? Is the top the same as the bottom? Is top and bottom the same? So what do I multiply that by? 72 times 2 is? Okay, so we did side and side, top and bottom. What's left? The other two sides, right, guys? The one that's in this very back. How do I find the area of this one that's in the very back? 9 times 6. What's 9 times 6? Now is that, do I need to multiply that one by 2? No, because that one's buttoned up against the other rectangle, right, guys? So, are we done? What do we do now? Add them all together. Do your double check. Check with the person that's sitting next to you, please, when you are done. Make sure you double check with the person sitting next to you. See if you guys agree on your answer. What are you guys telling me? What do you get when you add them all together? 876 yards squared. All right, questions. Okay, we're going to go to number 2. Okay, now what I want you to do is we're going to break this up, okay? I want you and your partner to only find the area of the upper rectangle, not the lower one at all, just the upper. Does that make sense, everyone? Mm-hmm. And then add it all together, so we only have to check one number, not all the sides. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So find the surface area of just the upper rectangle for me, please. Go. Okay, so most of us figured out this top one. So someone tell me, what's 2 numbers I should be multiplying together? 2 times 6. And what's 2 times 6? Okay, now that's what? What side is that? 2 times 6 is my front, right, guys? And is my front the same as my back? So should I multiply that by 2? What's 12 times 2, you guys? Okay, I would like everyone to stop, please, and pay attention. And participate, please, and thank you. Thank you. All right, what else can I multiply together? Okay, what's 7 times 2? And that's what? The top. Can I multiply that by 2? No, because that bottom is nothing, right, guys? So I'm going to leave that alone. What else can I multiply together? 6 times 7, 7 times 6, which is? 42. That's this side. Is there 2 sides that are exactly the same? What is that? 84. Which means when you added all of those together, you told me what? So the surface area of the top rectangular prism is 122. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay, bottom's a little bit trickier, right, guys? Because we got some funky things going on, correct? Okay, we will pick up here tomorrow because the bell rings in 2 minutes. You do not need to finish for homework. Is that understood?